Hi, my name is Sam Led, and welcome to The Fearless Now. This is for you, and you in the nosebleed seats, if you're looking for an easier way to approach anxiety, stress, and unhealthy habits from the inside out. There's no techniques and no strategies, so sit back, relax, and let me be your peace of mind Uber driver, here on The Fearless Now. And ladies and gentlemen, the last time Scott and I did this, I forgot to hit record. So this is a very special Fearless Now. My name is Sam Led. I'm a transformational coach, and it's such an honor to have this gentleman, this scholar, this character who has this wonderful podcast called the Causing the Effect podcast. I just had a brain fart, an ADHD moment there. And his name is Scott Gazzoli, and he's taken an hour of his Friday off, a very busy Friday, to be here with us. We got a lot to say. He has a real, I would say, conscientious and learned podcast. And the reason why I say that is he's open to all perspectives when it comes to personal development, consciousness. He's kind of like the Brooklyn version of This American Life. You ever seen that?
Yeah, that's right? Perfect, man. Sam Led.
Wait, what the hell is his name again? Ira Glass.
Yes.
Yeah, you're the Italian, not Jewish version. Italian Catholic version.
I appreciate that, Sam. I appreciate that, man. That was very nice of you.
I can't lie. It's coming out. I don't have a script here. You see it. There's no dude. I'm not reading off a teleprompter. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Scott Gazzoli of the Causing the Effect podcast. I don't hear any applause.
Thank you, Sam. Seriously, man. Thank you for having me on again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And, we're trying to remember what we said a couple weeks ago because I had an ADHD moment. When I talk about ADHD, ladies and gentlemen, in my own experience, I'm not making this up. And what really got me about your work, because I do call it your work, because this is a labor of love for you, this podcast, is that it's so honest. It's also heart-centered. And I think a lot of it comes from your own journey. You had a dual diversity experience, because you're also I'm sure Mensa would be knocking on you. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty intuitive. You're pretty smart. So don't get a swelled head, but Scotty, so your dual diversity experience growing up, I mean, you're still really young and really seeing so many, you've seen a lot. You're a real seer. And I want you to share some of that because it definitely continues to evolve. I mean, but it also is the reason why this podcast that you put together and the work that you're doing outside of your work, but the real labor of love is this work. It's why it's really blowing up and evolving. And it's been so helpful for a lot of people, including myself. And I'm a sponge, dude. So I'm going to give you the conch. I'm going to pass the gavel.
Is that over?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Doobie. Yeah.
Yeah. So, dude, thank you for just blowing my head up. And I think everybody has their path, right? Their hero's journey of what they go through. And I feel like at this point, I'm on my 8th journey. And I think the cool part of it is just the learning process. I think I am heart-centered. I am authentic. I tell people I can bullshit, but I'm not a bullshitter. But I think it is coming from, I've made mistakes and I've just gone through some shit like we all have. But what is the point of people going through it if they can just listen to an episode or listen to this on mindfulness or listen to us chat about your ADHD or my struggles or whatever that may be, to really let loose and just be like, wow, I don't have to make those mistakes. And that is something that I try to bring forward. And I think that's why I try to be like a father figure, a big brother to a lot of those younger guys, to be honest with you. And there's different chapters of this story. You want me to start from the beginning? You want me to start with the good stuff? Wherever you tell me, Sam.
Any part of it's great because it's so interesting. But I think that your life could have gone really sideways. I mean, some of the experiences you shared, which is, and the fact that you're now successful, you got a great haircut, you have a wonderful girlfriend, you live in, a really nice part of Brooklyn. Not only that, but he's a mensch of a guy, speaks volumes because, you could have gone that other way.
And honestly, I like
to talk about that, because there's a lot of, when you think about that, and when I share the nature of thought and thinking in the work I do with my clients and also on the podcast, it comes down to that moment. We have this salad bar of thoughts or this buffet of thoughts in Vegas. Obviously, if you're conscientious and you don't want to die of a heart attack or diabetes, you're not going to pick only the chocolate cake. You're going to take a little bit of salad and you may have some dessert on the buffet. Well, think of that as a metaphor for thought because that's exactly, you have discernment and you kind of saw it for yourself.
Yeah. And I think people always say wow, when they hear my story, wow, you really ended up in a good spot. I was like, yeah, even if I was a crazy wild man, people be like, well, that's acceptable given your story here. So I try to look at the way I am for people who play video games or look at versions of themselves, like you're seeing version Mark 56 of Scott. Like
Exactly.
there's been a couple different things. And that's always a fun way to look at it. And I think if you looked at me growing up, like from 18 to 24, I'd be like, this kid's probably off the rails. Probably something bad's going to happen. But luckily we pulled it back. I think we'll start with the good part of it, the childhood, and knows a little bit.
I love what you said there though, because it's kind of like we go up against our own belief systems and conditioning, especially how we grew up, how we were raised, our families, and your family played a big role in that. But again, you could have been stuck in that dark alleyway and not gotten out of it, metaphorically speaking. But it's interesting, the metaphor, I don't know if you've heard this, get out of my movie, man. It's a 60s expression.
Mm-hmm.
You literally, we always have choice to walk out of the movie theater of our situation and do something different for the most part. And you did that. You didn't like the movie you were watching, which is what was going on, and you walked out the door.
Yes.
Cool.
And I think having those imprints of, I call it the dark side, people call it dark sky, whatever you want to call it. It's interesting because I do think there's a difference between some people are just nice people because they don't want to we'll get a little philosophical. We're reading a lot of Nietzsche lately. So
this is your episode.
Yeah, man.
We can go Dostoevsky too if you want to get really dark.
Exactly. That's what I've been reading. This is the stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a difference between somebody who's nice for the sake of being nice, and then there's somebody who's nice because they know the evil or they know the dark side of what they can do. And I can tell you, I've delved into that darkness. I've seen that. And it's funny. I'll bring up a little Carl Jung, and I have a little quote that we could talk about. There is something called regressive restoration of the persona, which is a term to describe basically collapsing back into your old consciousness, your old attitude. And it's much easier to do that when you've gone through that process. And I saved this for you so we could talk about this. It's from Carl Jung.
I love Jung.
Psychologist. Yes, exactly. So
Jungian I love him.
The best. He said, formerly, perhaps he wanted more than he could accomplish. Now he does not even dare to attempt what he has it in him to do. So I would say that kind of describes very much of what I don't even dare to go down that path. And knowing those pieces are there gives me more confidence that I put forward the best foot every time with genuity, with authenticity in a world today that is built on fakeness, that is built on money or power, these things that just never resonated with me. And I went down that path of making money, wearing the suit, being in a hedge fund. If you looked at me at 26 years old, you would say, wow, this kid has it all together. I was a mess. I was getting ulcers. I was getting married, big Italian family, big Italian.
You got married at 26. Wow. I was partying in South Beach.
I wish that's what, and that listen.
Well, no, I mean, for better or for worse, I was the dark side of the force too. I mean,
exactly. I think that there is things, I always find myself bonding with people over those moments. Because when you're with somebody who's been on the lowest of low, A, their story's going to sound better because there's adversity. And B, it's like nobody wants just vanilla, right? You don't want the person, my life has just been perfect. Like, what are you going to learn? How are you going to really level up through that process? So to start with, probably the best part of the story is the childhood, growing up thinking my dad was in the coffee business. And I guess psychologically that
he said that he was going to like he had a coffee bean distributor kind of thing.
Yeah, they literally had the whole front. So for the New York people, anybody who's been here, if you go to the Brooklyn Bridge, they had big factories set up. They had it all set up. There was coffee cans. There was not coffee in the whatever. It was cocaine. So I would walk in and like literally see everything and just be like, oh wow.
So would you go to his office like you just like as a little kid, and there'd be like these cans everywhere, and you're like,
literally a distributor. It was
like Dad, why does it smell like coffee?
Yeah, and the coffee was probably hiding the smell of the cocaine, and you know that whole thing. It's like a movie because 3 years ago, my grandfather got out of jail and told me this whole story. So I was not even aware of how deep my father was into it. My father ratted on my grandfather and my uncles and put them into jail. My grandfather was in jail for 20 years.
Oh wow!
So I think innately, I always just knew my dad was a bad guy, and I've taken the approach of just doing the opposite of how I was brought up, being respectful, treating the janitor like the CEO, and doing all that kind of good stuff that it just felt right to me. And knowing that story now, it just kind of even imprints more like, wow, that intuition that I have, that wisdom, shout out to Taylor Rourke, is even more imprinted in me. Like,
there we go.
My gut.
It's interesting because I talk about inner wisdom. And when we go up against our conditioning, we get to see what really is, right? Because what you did is that you went up against the conditioning, your family's conditioning, the whole belief system around that universe. It really was, especially that business, and you really saw your inner GPS and trusted your inner wisdom. How is that possible? Even as a young kid, a lot of us, we look up to our parents. And so that for you, that takes so much gumption to really believe in yourself and your own inner voice, that calm voice underneath the noise. Because most people are scared shitless, like especially in that business, if you're in the family business, quote unquote. I mean, holy shit. I mean, most people would not go against that family.
Yeah, man. And listen, I was like Henry Hill in Goodfellas. Like, yeah, that's what my mother was saying. You look like a gangster. I was coming home with $200-$300 in my pocket every week. And
wow.
So everybody understands, like after my father went away, I unknowingly was kind of taken over by my uncles my father was not full Italian, so he couldn't be in the real Gambino crime family, blah, blah, blah. But my uncles were real Gambino crime family mobsters. I was around Frank Gambino, I was around Carl Gambino, these big guys I didn't even realize. And you learn things from being around that, and you also learn what to do and what not to do. So it was just another day in the office by that point. That's what it was like. And you don't even realize retroactively, like how you were like one rat away or one thing away, one cop car away getting pulled over from doing something. Like maybe I would have went another way. But they always were, I think that's why my uncles instilled in me this trust and loyalty piece. And coming out of that, I think those are like two things where people try to figure out in my day job or in life, like, why do people like you so much? It's not really wanting to be liked. That's never what it's about. It's about the currency of life is interpersonal trust. That's the way I look at it. When I say something, I'm going to be accountable for it. I'm not bullshitting you, and you're going to get it. And I think that's something that people aren't really understanding nowadays, particularly with Instagram. Particularly, I'm very careful with the words I say. I'm very careful with not fibbing or telling a lie or making myself look boastful, because I did that in my 20s. I wanted to be this hot shot. Everybody making millions. I wasn't making millions. You just wanted to be like a big shot. And now it's like you don't realize how much that affects your psyche, because it's not like you're just lying to people. You're lying to yourself in a way, and there's a miscommunication. And that's kind of what I've made since my divorce has been my goal in life, is just to like intertwine my outside and my inside world. And it's just so much more seamless of a process when you're able to live your life being the truest version of yourself.
And it's so liberating. Because you could be fueled by ego and the outer mask of what you just described in your 20s, right? The glossy life. And for someone to have that emotional intelligence and also to see so early, because for a lot of us, including myself, it takes decades, really, to go against your conditioning, to knock up against your experience of how it always has been in your family or how it always has been in your neighborhood or how it et cetera, and then really see. So, I mean, that's profound. Because I don't know if I was in your shoes and I had a family that was in a business that you don't really, it's like the military, right? It's like the army. There's a chain of command and they're like the capos, and you need to follow them to the letter or something happens. Yeah. And something did happen. You mentioned, I think, now I remember, something did happen once. And I think that was kind of like
the finger story.
The finger story. Yeah.
So
nice fingers. He's got nice fingers.
Beautiful penis fingers. I'll tell you, the one time I got out of line with these people, I was serving drinks and I was a kid. You're getting tons of money. It's crazy. You're around these dudes. And I was just being a brat. I don't remember what I was, 11, 12 years old. And I could still hear the crack in my brain. And I don't know if it was Carl himself, one of the head consigliers, whatever, broke this finger the other way.
Wow.
And it wasn't even, nobody made a big thing about it.
How old were you when this was?
I had to be 10 or 11 by that point. And just like it, honestly, it wasn't, my uncle took me over, we fixed it up, they patched it up, and they said, listen, you know what you did? You know the way you were acting? So we don't act that way here. And I don't know if that may have been such a deep moment that I kind of pushed that down of this is why you treat people the right way, or this, because I just kind of, my head was getting blown up. You're getting money, you're getting this, I was doing good in basketball, you're doing all these like little things. And it was a tough lesson. But that's the way those places are, right? They teach you tough, and they knew. My uncle told me after, he's like, we'll always have your back. We'll always do it. Just you can't act that way. We don't act that way. You're a man now. You want to be around men, you're a man. And it was a tough lesson learned. But I think if I didn't go through that whole process, I probably wouldn't have understood so quickly what I understood. And that changing of identity became easier and easier for me as I gone through life, because you go through that little phase of whatever you want to call it, being on the inside of the mafia. And then you go to football.
But what was the moment, that kind of the breaking point where and this is really important because I think it illustrates, again, like you went against that conditioning because it was just so toxic and got out.
Yeah, and it's funny. I always suggest people to like go with their gut. And I think I'm blessed by something, call it whatever people believe in, but my gut has always kind of led me in the right direction. It just starts feeling weird. Like handing out drinks, getting money is one thing. And then they say, go bring an envelope around the block. Okay, that's cool with me. Things start getting weird when you hit that level 12, 13. They start going, You got to break somebody's car with a baseball bat. All right, even that. All right, cool. Did that. Then it becomes, you see them like getting into
the trajectory is going, right?
Yeah,
right.
And then it just didn't feel right. And that's the only way I could really describe it. Now, I was waiting for something to happen because it was like I knew eventually you would have to. I think I never got to the part, like next level up, like Grand Theft Auto, right? It would have been like lighting a car on fire, blowing it up. You never get to that point. But I was kind of waiting just for a reason to get out, to be honest with you. I didn't want to do it the wrong way. I wasn't just going to say, hey, I'm too much of a pussy, right? I'm a kid. I don't know what's going on. So my mother ended up finding out about one of the things and freaked out on my family. And I was like, I could have just kept going, right? But I just didn't feel right to me. And that was like, she kind of put me on the path of super focused, super studying. Every night my mother was with me, multiplication.
So you
tables.
just like one day, one day just said I had enough. And how did you was there like...
No, it was honestly my mother, for all her fucking craziness, shout out to Caroline. My mother will always like be the shield for me, was always the shield for me as a kid. So basically the story was just, he's not doing this. And she was like, are you going to start doing it? Because my mother knew me by that point. Like if I really wanted to do something, I would have just done it, right? You could find ways to do it behind her mother's back. So it was pretty simple. My mother made everything easy on me just as being the shield. Like my son can't do this. And it wasn't like Bronx Tale where it's like you sneak it behind. It's like, all right, it's easy. That was how that went. And I would say I probably made her keep a bigger eye on me, but it started something between me and her that I look back and I appreciate now of like her. Going into high school, you start taking IQ tests, and I ended up getting a perfect score on a couple. So you do city perfect scores, and then you take the state. And then
you saying you're a closet Mensa? You are.
Something of that level. I just consider it, I could just take in, people say you're super smart. Like, it's not even being smart. It's just being able to take in knowledge. That's all IQ is taking in that knowledge. But the interesting piece, I think I have better emotional intelligence than the other intelligence.
Wow.
Yeah. But the good part to that story is my mother got this and started just like we would drill every night. So it'd be an hour and a half. I'd play football, do all that stuff, come home, hour of multiplication tables, hour of spelling cards every day. Every day. It was like clockwork, and ended up winning a bunch of that stuff, winning all this stuff that just kind of like, it just taught me repetition that I always appreciate now, because doing the reps is always pretty easy for me to do, because that's what she really instilled. That led to playing football at a high level and doing that whole situation where you're in high school, you're signing letters of intent, and you just kind of take on that persona.
I'm listening, like 10 minutes ago, we were talking about being a crime family, right? And being 12 years old. And now we're talking about going into high level varsity football, almost into college football. I mean,
and listen, man, again, it was everything. And I'm so blessed. I don't know what it is. It's probably a mix of all this stuff. It's everything came easy to me. And I would say this became the theme of this next couple chapters of life is honestly quit.
By this time, were your parents divorced?
Yes. Yeah. My father's gone. I don't know what's going on. So this is 13, 14, 15, 16. This is just really focusing on
football, you and your mom.
Losing. Yeah. Me, my mom, my sister, we're a team. And going back at it, my mother just telling us your dad wants nothing to do with you. It's easier to say that than go through the whole story of this, of what we're talking about. So I get it. But still, I think deep down, having those thoughts, which your father wants nothing to do with you, does kind of play that. And I think there's a deep inner confidence that I would have had having a father there, obviously. What happened was for football, signed my letter of intent to between UCF, Rutgers, a bunch of different colleges that are pretty good. I wasn't going to Miami. It was just a different thing. And what happens is one of the last games of the season, blowout, ACL, MCL, LCL, meniscus, everything gets completely obliterated. So my knee, your knee bends this way. My knee just went this way. 400-pound lineman falls on it and it snaps back. So like, I don't even remember the game. Or I just remember my coach holding my head and holding my head, not letting me look down. He said, don't look down. Don't look down.
But that's also that's a different kind of pain. I mean, that's beyond.
Oh, forget it.
It's off the Richter scale pain.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had pain like that, and when I hurt my back surfing, it's just no bueno.
Forget it. You're numb when it snaps, and then you wake up and you're on drugs. And then once they say at 2, 3 a.m., when the drug wears off, you're going to want to take it. I said, I don't need this shit. I needed that shit. It was brutal. It was
next
terrible.
level. It's next level.
Yeah. And this was 2007 or 8. I'm 16, 17. And it's no...
I've already lived like 3 lives by this time. I mean, it's
tiring. This is.
I know. I'm already like, okay, this guy retired. He has to put this on his CV anyways, even though people, because this is just a wonderful story. And I mean, I do see a screenplay, but I'm sure you've heard that a million times. Go ahead.
Oh, dude, I'm going to have Ryan Gosling playing me. Of course.
Totally. Isn't Ryan Gosling Canadian? He can be Canadian from Brooklyn. Canadian.
We'll have to give him a little accent. That's why he's acting, Sammy.
That's
but
true.
Yeah. So that, I would say from there, it becomes more of like the story of a pattern that I saw in my life of like, it got tough and you kind of just quit. And now I'm not saying like that's quitting, right? But it's from form of it. If I would have took back then it was 18 months to do all that stuff. And you do PT, you get back to maybe now I'm at 75%, 80%, but you just know.
You're not the same. I mean, 100%. I mean, my back is not the same. I still have to get acupuncture.
But maybe if you would have been crazy with the PT and instead of with adversity, you fight it. If I wouldn't have just kind of let it win, it would have been a different story. Now, this leads to the next chapter, which is I was using football as a tool for anger, probably from the father stuff, from all this little things that were, I couldn't get out now. You're on your legs tied up. What could you do? So I'm thinking, I'm looking. My mother always said, you're never allowed to play the drums. Your father
was your mom a professional woman, or was she like, because it's interesting, because it sounds like she was an educator, like a teacher or
No, my mother worked in healthcare. So she was my mother before she was forced to take over me and my, just to watch me and my sister, which I think she wanted to do criminology. She wanted to be a cop, like my sister is now.
Oh, interesting.
And now, once my father left,
she married,
exactly. It's funny how the whole thing goes.
Yeah.
And now my sister's a cop, so it's like it all becomes like it's really funny how the whole thing, like every story is like there's the yin and yang of all.
We need to get your sister. I mean, does she did she like your podcast?
Yeah, she loves. It's so.
We need to get her on. I'd love to on your podcast too.
My sister is I would say relatively tough person. My sister is like Brooklyn tough. Like you don't fuck with my sister. Like there's like, and now with a cop, she got these skills and stuff, and she just it's funny. But no, she's the best, and having her support throughout everything, and we always kind of innately have each other's back. And people are like, how is your relationship? It's just super close in a way you can't. Now,
is she a lot older than you, or
she's 18 months younger? My sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so relatively the same age.
Okay,
but she's the best. And she went through her own path. She was a teacher, hated teaching. She went through nursing. She hated nursing. And now she's a cop. And she loves it. Just bought our house here. First house. She bought our house before I did. So God bless her. And we were at the football. So now I pick up the drums because I need to get the anger out. And you start picking it up. And it's always cool. My best friend was a guitarist. My cousin was a bassist. We started playing. We get pretty good. We start doing shows. Play at Barry Ballroom. Play at the Rose Room. All these fun places. This would be literally from 17 years old up to 20, 21. Basically college years. The college years. Everybody's flexible. You can do all this stuff, and we're kind of ripping. We are sounding good. We're good. The name of the band was called. I'm going to say Cause and the Effect. It was called Psychic.
Actually, that's Psychic Anchor.
Psychic Anchor, which is Ernest Hemingway saying. And basically, Psychic Anchor was. Let me see here. Well, I don't think it was Ernest Hemingway. What the hell was it?
Is it on any of the old catalog stuff on Spotify? That'd be kind of cool.
See,
well, I'd love to play.
That was it. Hunter S. Thompson. I don't even think.
You said I mentioned it was Hunter S. Thompson.
Yes, that was it. So basically,
I gotta hear some, man. You gotta send me something.
Oh, bro, of course. And we do. Honestly, we sounded so cool because I came from, believe it or not, I love death metal. Death metal was like my go-to.
Really?
Yeah. So that was my favorite. It was like so cool. My best friend was progressive music. My cousin was funk. And we had this really cool thing. My cousin's best friend sounds like Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. So we had this really cool vibe. It was really working. People were digging it. And it became basically the decision of stopping college or going on tour, not like a crazy tour, doing an East Coast tour where you're kind of just vibing through the East, which would have been fucking awesome. And
so wait, the lead singer sounded like Eddie Vedder. Let's go back here a second.
Yeah, so the lead singer sounded like Eddie Vedder. He literally sounded exactly like Pearl Jam.
Wow.
Fantastic writer.
Okay, I can't do it.
I'll send it to you after this. I have something queued up.
So who's your drum influence? Your drummer influence? Go ahead.
I mean, bro, Neil Peart, all the
Neil Peart, Bonham,
Neil Peart, John Bonham.
I was gonna say Neil Peart.
It's bro. It doesn't get any better than that. But I also, Mike Portnoy of he's
who's the drummer from? Jerry was a race car driver. What the hell is that band? Jerry was a race car driver. Joseph goddamn. Oh man, what's the name of that band? It's from my college days. That drummer is brilliant. I forgot his name. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm segueing.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. But literally a lot of heavy, hard hitting like Lars from Metallica, obviously. Like that stuff was what we did. Chad Smith, Chili Peppers, all classics. I would say it's very much like me. It was just like there's something about my drumming that was just very in the pocket, in the moment, very classic.
Where do you get that from? I mean, I'm thinking, okay, Mafia, working with Dad, to college football, then death metal drumming. I mean, and you're from Brooklyn?
Let me preface. My father was in a band as a kid, jazz. He played. Yeah. He loved drums too. That's why my mother never wanted me to play. I probably reminded her. And
Buddy Rich.
Yeah, Buddy Rich. All classic. And I always loved.
Dude, you have a cool family. My family's not even close as cool as yours. Warts and all. I mean,
But no, listen, that was an awesome experience too, because again, anything with repetitions was relatively easy for me to get quick. So every Saturday I was sitting there playing the drums in my house for 10 hours a day, like just 10 hours every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. That's what I was doing. When I get home, I was playing drums, playing the drums. So you pick up stuff quickly, and everybody else was they were always a little bit ahead of me because they were playing before. So that was another, if I would have pushed everybody and I would have like had the balls to say, Ma, let me try this. This is once in a lifetime thing. I'll come back to college a year. It probably wouldn't have made a big difference. And maybe,
yeah, I don't see that happening, especially your mother.
Yeah, she may have just disowned me, but I'm used to. She's disowned me.
I don't think she would disown you, Scotty. I think she would just give you a look.
But that's my mother's thing. Well, if you do this, I'll disown you. And then when she started, I've been disowned like 7 times. She's coming here right.
I'm sure you charmed her back. You gave, but she gave you that look. You know that look.
She's coming here for dinner tonight. We're having dinner tonight. That's what my mother does. That's what my mother does. Is like it's just that big reaction, making things out of the typical Italian stuff.
Well, I have a Jewish mother, so it's exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Same thing, bro. Very similar. And that whole thing, you finish college. I end up, while doing that, I get my BS in economics, a BS in finance, BS in accounting, minor philosophy, minor in psychology.
Oh, you're in a death metal band.
While I'm playing.
And you're touring. Dude.
Just playing. And college is easy, man.
You didn't have to study. I'm sure you were just like that guy that we all envied. He went out he had a radio last night. He got 1 hour of sleep, or if that.
I was taking tests on Molly and ecstasy. That's how wild I was becoming in my 20s. It was becoming a joke. Yeah, but like, listen, everybody's. I would say any kids that are listening, think about what you're doing in college, because you never realize, like, when you're doing accounting, finance, this is what you're going to be doing for 10 hours.
Those things are important. Yeah. For sure.
And I would say, like, now all I do. My cousins always tell me, like, you did it the best way because you have the degrees that show that you make money, and then you could read philosophy and psychology for fun. So that was always, if I can go back and do it, it probably would have been psychology, philosophy, something with connecting to the human consciousness and the brain. But from there, you get into a hedge fund, and now this is the next chapter.
So this is like, so we're in, okay. So let's recap. So mafia, football, college, death metal.
Death metal during college, and now
anything else I've missed? I mean, did you invent something in between?
That's all I got. That's all I got. So now you're 22. You're 22, 23. You start working, and you're at a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund, working with ultra high net worth families, billionaires, all this fun stuff that I didn't realize. I was a ball of anxiety because these people were freaking out about. I'm more of a strategy guy, Sam. I talk and I'm like willy-nilly. I could do the numbers, but these people, like, if you have a $4 billion account, we call it tolerable error. Like, don't be worried about $15,000, $20,000. These people would stress out about the money. Not saying any names. Used to be a governor of Chicago, whatever.
I know,
whatever. I'll shit on people. But it just didn't feel right. Again, you're going with the gut, and like you end up, you're with the college sweetheart, you're dating. It's like, what sounds good on paper? There was no critical thinking happening for me. It's like, let's get married. Let's do the whole thing. But through those times, I was raging so hard because now I start reconnecting with my father, who, some of the story now. He's into some funny business, 22, 23.
And so he moved out of New York. He moved west,
from, in reality, he went to I think he went to most of those boring states throughout the time not speaking to me. So Iowa, Kansas.
Oh, really?
Like really Ohio, he told me.
Was that because of he needed to be low,
I guess you had to keep it super low key.
Keep it on the DL.
In reality, by that point now.
They must have loved him in Iowa. I mean,
right? That's what.
All those
My father tried to be the mayor of Shawnee, Kansas, and I'll send you, dude.
With a Brooklyn accent, right?
Well, this is the funny thing.
Dude, you got to send this to me.
I'm going to send you his. How about this? I will send you his Instagram after this. That way, you could laugh at how out of control.
But it's so brilliant, though. But it's so gonzo. Like a gonzo. It's so gonzo because here you have like your dad. He's actually. I see where you get it between your mom's groundedness and your dad. Your dad was brilliant. Even though he took that brilliance and he kind of went to the dark side of the force for a little while, or maybe he still is. But dude, the mayor of Shawnee, Kansas. I mean,
he tried. He never became the mayor of Shawnee.
But even the thought of being the mayor,
if you take a little, and my father, the good things in my father, definitely that's where I get the work ethic, the working hard, and he still busts his butt. So he basically, 20 years later, he ended up splitting time between Shawnee, Kansas, and then Vegas. So I'm 22 years old. I'm like, wow.
So what was he doing outside of in Shawnee?
Shawnee, Kansas? He ran and owned Electrolux franchises. I don't know if you're familiar with Electrolux.
The vacuum cleaner. My grandma. I saw my grandmother's vacuum cleaner when she lived in Queens.
Saying goes, nothing sucks like Electrolux. That is what he would always say. And my dad would be like, old school, started from nothing, went door to door selling, ended up owning like 15 franchises, and during this time, he had to have these adrenaline rushes of hobby. My dad picked the most expensive hobbies in the world. So the first one that I remember seeing him as a kid, we went to Florida, see your father. He was the power man on speedboats. So that's the throttle guy.
Oh, like the Scarab, the Miami Vice.
Yeah. So he takes me in the thing and it's like, yeah, what the fuck are we doing? Going 100 to 200 miles in a boat. Like
with his son.
Yeah. This is the stuff he liked to do. And it's an expensive hobby, right? So he would go to, if anybody, you ever seen the show Ozark? You ever heard of that show?
Jason Bateman, one of my favorite actors. Yeah.
So that's where my dad lived.
You're the Italian version of Bateman.
Exactly. Kind of. And this is what my dad thinks he's Jason Bateman because that's where he lived between those.
He lived in what was that? Missouri.
Lake of the Ozark. Lake of the Ozark was before Shanty. That's where like that movie, that show is pretty accurate. Like I went there and like that's where they hired most of the guys in the 90s. It's pretty funny. So you'd be there, you'd be like, oh, there's Vinny from down the block. I'm like, Vinny, you don't look like you're a Kansas guy. Like you don't look like it. So that was always cool. But he ended up getting heavily into, he was always a gambler, and ended up going to Vegas, basically spending half his time there. And as a 22-year-old kid, that sounds perfect, right? Like your dad is one of the biggest, he was gambling $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a hand. So like you get there and you're just like living the dream, right? People are giving you everything. You get this, you get the big suite. So I got so addicted to that. So I ended up going, when I was at the hedge fund, I told him, listen, I want to reconnect with my father. It sounds like a really wholesome story. I need to connect with my father during the weekends.
Very wholesome.
Yeah. So I would take the flight down Friday nights, get there by 10 p.m. and just go balls to the wall. So I'm partying hardcore. I went to Vegas like 37 weeks in a row, 38 weekends in a row, something like that, like crazy. Pedal to the metal. Like when people are like, I party, I'm like, you don't know what partying is. Like, I pushed it.
You took it to you have a doctorate.
Yeah, like we were doing the yellow cocaine, Sam. The yellow coke. That's from the cartel. That's from fresh.
Most of us just the whites,
Exactly.
The disco shit. So, you were like next level.
Unfortunately. But again, you're doing it and it was so weird because it's almost like you're on autopilot. You're like running, like, what am I doing? This feels good in the moment. And then by Sundays, you're sitting there crying.
It's all dopamine, but you don't, and I guess, again, I can only imagine that's a big rush. And the first couple of times, amazing.
But then that identity, right? The identity.
Well, you don't know who, you completely lose yourself. For a second.
And then you start like, oh, you post some on Instagram, you get this many likes and girls and this, and you put on the suit.
Yeah, you return, who's that guy, Bazarian? What's it?
Like a poor man's Dan Bilzerian. Exactly. That's what I thought. And even like, still to this day, I still have my Instagram. I still hate my personal page because it's like, you still dabble in that. I want to look good. I want to do this. And that's just like the ego coming out. But that was lessons learned the hard way. And another lesson, the married Scott, right? So I get so crazy.
Wait, we have part 3. So
I
forgot. I lost track.
Yeah. First mafia, level 1 mafia, then football, then drumming, then partying, level 5, basically burn myself to the ground. To be honest, totally transparent. I hope my ex-wife I don't think she'll ever hear this, but the only reason I got married, we broke up for like 2.5 years, not because I was crazy with her. That's what came out of a breakup was like that. Oh, okay. Well, there's more to the story. So we're dating. Things are going fine. This is 2012, 2013. Now I have my uncle who I mentioned was the real father figure. They called him a button man. Nobody knows what a button man is. Google it. I won't tell you that. I kind of got an idea what a button man is. Yeah. So he was a great man, taught me everything about loyalty, trust, all this great stuff. Uncle Sal, shout out. Unfortunately, Uncle Sal gets cancer, passes away within 2 months. And that put it, I was living a nihilist lifestyle. I was like, I'm gonna. Oh,
you were living in basically, like, You're just trying to living.
I'm talking about like we would go to the clubs, you do bottle service till 4 a.m., right? Partying. My friend was an Uber driver. So I would just jump in the back, put a suit on, and we would just drive from the city to Atlantic City at 5 o'clock in the morning on every drug in the planet. So I'm talking about, I've been on the other side of the New Jersey Turnpike. We've been pulled over by the cops. So when the cop gets pulled over, when he would get pulled over, sir, could you not pull me over? I have a big meeting to get to. You can't stop this Uber driver from drugs. So they would never think we were on drugs. It was hilarious. It was like running a show. It was craziness. And running myself to the ground there, you end up like the only reason I really got back with her and did that whole thing was because I thought I was going to kill myself. Like not kill myself, like I'm going to suicide. I'm just I'm eventually going to burn out. I'm going to burn out or something.
And I think you kind of did, not in the physical sense, but spiritually.
Emotional. Yep. Oh, dude, absolutely.
Because these are, look, we've all tasted what you're talking about in different degrees. I've seen some of that, but not to the, you had a lot more fun than I did. I don't know how, my discernment wasn't as good as you, maybe if I continued on, but yeah, you kind of lost, you felt it. You lost
All
Scott.
pleasure, dude. All senses, all pleasure. So
Realistic.
yeah, so you go from there, and this is like, if there's also this theme of extremes, right? You got to be the top of the football chain. You got to be the drummer. And now it's like, okay, well, what seems right? What seems like the perfect fit? Go from there, within a year and a half, being engaged, building a house here in New York.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, so at this point, I'm like, well, that didn't work. This has to be the answer, right? This has to work, right? This is perfect. Same feeling comes in. I'm like, shit, what the fuck is going on? All these things I wasn't being my true self. I was going with the flow, not putting an architectural lifestyle to my life that I would say post-divorce, I'm very careful with who I speak to. I'm very careful with my time spent, very careful with what activities I'm doing to really give myself the most vibrancy, the most level-headedness that I've become. And I really had to go through every one of those chapters to become this person. And when I'm like out to a bar, when I used to date girls before Jessica, I would tell this story and girls would be like, this isn't your fucking life. Are you out of your mind? I'm like, yeah, this is it, babe. This is how it works.
I know, but it's because everyone's seen too many movies. I mean, everyone thinks it's the De Niro character, right? Or Pacino, or I can go on and on and on. I think that in real life, people look like all kind, we put that whole lifestyle on a different kind of pedestal, but we realize that they're just human beings just trying to make a living. In a different way, of course. I don't judge anything when it comes to that. I mean, you do what you got to do. But when you lose yourself completely and your soul is crying out to you, it's like, Scotty, I'm here. Look at me. I'm right here. And you're like, no, I'm going to fulfill the neurochemicals part of me.
I can never.
Dopamine part of me.
I never sat by myself this whole time. Never sat in my room. This is what I always tell like my young cousins, people like, oh, you meditate. I'm not into meditating. Just call whatever the fuck you want. Just go sit with yourself for 10 minutes and just sit and be and just see what pops. I never did that once. I was so scared to be alone. That fear, that lack of confidence, it was just making me fling myself into these different situations that really don't align with who you see today, or even my inner workings that have probably been there the whole time.
But when was it when you saw that was just noise? Like that was just, that you were bumping up against this human experience of A, what it's supposed to look like, what you think it's supposed to look like, and B, the noise of thought of our mind, our brain, because it's a very noisy organ. I mean, you can't hear it, but you can hear it, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. It's so noisy, and we all have different levels of noise going on between our ears. When did you kind of see it like, oh wait, that shit's not real you can't like touch my anxiety. You can't touch my fear of being alone. It's all in my head. Right. Yeah. And that we're just one thought away from getting quiet and then starting a podcast and really taking a deep dive when it comes to consciousness and who we are and who you really are, and really kind of grounding yourself and developing a steady career and creating a life with your
lady,
your love.
It was after I got divorced, it was like I was fed up of like looking for the next fix. I was like, this is not working. Like whatever you're doing to get to where you want to be, it's just not happening. You have to really start from the ground up, retool, look at yourself. And I always had this inkling of spirituality. I was like, I was always meditating maybe 10 minutes a day, but more, there's different types.
Did you go to church when you were?
I was private Catholic. Every single one was private Catholic schools. I got communion, all this stuff. Okay. It just never sat with me. It was just, I just, again, this intuition, I was just like, it just doesn't click. Like that never clicked with me. And then all of a sudden I found Dr. Joe Dispenza. I found Jay Shetty, all these different things. Yeah. Just things that, whatever you want to call it, spirituality. I call it spirituality like as a whole. Just sitting with myself though, was you start meditating, taking it from people. There's different types. I think when you do meditation for 10 minutes, it's a nice way to release anxiety and calm down. But when you start getting past that 20, 30-minute threshold, you start changing the brain waves, you start getting the theta, and start being able to really watch yourself. And once I started doing that, once my meditation, I became addicted with meditation. So this is when the repetitions became good for me, right? I was doing it 80 to 90, up to 2 hours a day of meditating, waking up 3:30, learning, understanding discipline, understanding you have to architect a ritual in your morning, understanding you have to architect your life. And what do I want? And I said to myself, job is cool. I enjoy it, but I could do something else. And I did some introspection, tons of introspection to understand what fulfills me. And Tony Robbins or all different psychologists have these different pieces of what's important. There's some people want certainty. Some people want uncertainty. Some people want love. Some people want connection. Some people want yada, yada, yada. Mine is connection. So there's no surprise that everything I'm doing in life, comedy, podcasting, working, my day job, dealing with people.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. And also, which is also probably be in his book, is that he's also a stand-up comedian. We forgot to even talk about that. In fact, last time I think that I forgot to hit record and you were on the show. I think you were about to go up and do some material.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother chapter, man. This is the latest and greatest chapter. So you end up,
you need to write your book very soon. Okay.
This is a lot, man. Every time I talk to you, it's like I get this ego boost. I'm like, shit, man, I'm doing a lot. You don't realize it. I never
you know why? No, but I don't know if you think it's that. Do you know what it is? It's that we just drop in. We're present. That's why it's almost an hour. It's gone by so quick.
Is it an hour? Jesus Christ. That's crazy. That's crazy.
What you just described before about how we drop into the present moment, the meditation piece, which from my school of thought, you don't even need to meditate because we all are in a walking meditation all day long. We just don't pay attention to it enough because we pay more attention to the death metal band in our head, which is, I hate them. Sorry, don't hate me. But of noise, we don't, obviously the noise, we don't like the noise a lot of the time. But when we look at it as, oh, wait, I'm Scotty. Who I am is not my noise. And I'm not going to be afraid of my experience of the noise. And once we stop getting scared of the noise, the anxiety, the waking up and like, oh shit, I have this big deal, this big presentation from the boss tomorrow. And the noise gets so loud that we start believing the story because it's all made up. From my opinion, is true consciousness, is where we've really found nirvana within ourselves because we all are just one thought away and we all forget too. And the greatest thing about that and the most liberating thing about that when I see you in your life, because you've kind of glimpsed, you've actually held on to that alchemical gold of quiet all through your life. Because if not, you'd be still hanging out with the guys in the family business. God forbid something, you'd still be doing that same thing. See, when we get quiet, we fall in love. We make the best decisions career-wise. We just don't pay attention to that quiet enough because it happens so quickly.
Yeah.
So
it provides clarity, man. It's clarity.
Provides clarity. Yep. And for you and I, when we drop into a conversation, when we're on this, it goes by so quick because like anything else, when we drop in, I'm Sam and you're Scott and it's genuine and it's real.
Yeah. But this is what people need to hear, man. It's like, if somebody takes anything from that story, just take everything you go through. I used to like hate when something popped up in my life. And now it's like, I say good. I'm like, wow, I need this tool, this obstruction is here for a reason to kind of give me the chink in the armor that I need for whatever it may be. So comedy, all it was me trying to tackle my biggest fear in life, which is public speaking. And it's just so funny that you go from there 1 year, literally change it around, win a developmental deal in New York City, comedy, doing all this shit. It's crazy. It's a fairy tale. And it's like, it's not. It's just doing the reps, believing in yourself, all these little pieces that I'm not really.
But I think for you, Scotty, I think you can, just like you and I are having this powwow here, when you're up on stage, man, I think you, for yourself, you kind of see how important being present is because you do your best work when you're present. It's like you take the focus off yourself and you're just putting it right on the audience. Just like I take the focus off myself and I'm engaged in learning about your life and you sharing your experience. And I think as human beings, when we do more of that, man, we can do anything. Look at what Steve Branson. What's the guy that did SpaceX?
SpaceX.
Richard Branson.
Yeah, Richard Branson went up.
Yeah, he went up. That's Virgin Atlantic. Look at with Musk. All two awkward guys. They made it. They did it because they figured it out.
Yeah, man. But it comes back to that. Like if you,
but then we forget again, and then we remember.
That quiet is so, because it's like I think that's why we get along so well, and just like why I vibe with certain people that you can tell when somebody's like, most people in a conversation in New York, particularly, oh, what's going on, Sam? They're not even thinking about what you have to say. It's more just like, I want to get my shit. And like, right. I'm always aware of that. And I'm just like, no, I'm here just to listen. People get so surprised of listening that it's like, listening is not that hard, right? But nobody wants to listen to each other. And if we did that, everything would be a lot easier in life. If you got that calm down, quiet, you're going to get your say. And that's like, that's the point of life, right? It's to share. And that's why this conversation is so nice, because I could see it in your face. You see it in my face. We're here. We're here not to talk over each other. We're here to exchange and give value to whatever it may be.
And that's what happens when people listen to your podcast. And that's why you don't have to like your third post and in your Instagram feed is on the same level because it's real. And it's the human experience. It's no bullshit. And you're not trying to impress people. You're really sharing knowledge and sharing the human experience. And along the way, we're learning stuff. And that's the secret sauce. I mean, I think that life's a contact sport. We're going to get our knocks, but in the space between that, we just got to get present and just see where we can go with that, because that's where it all is. It's not up here. It's like the other day, you work out. I mean, I'm trying. I got a long way to go, but I work with this guy. He's a trainer, and I'm usually in my head most of the time thinking what I got to do, and I completely forget what we're doing, and I don't really talk to him. He's just like he's giving me commands. He's telling me, do this, do that. You did a great job. You need to do one more set. And when I'm present with him, I have a richer experience when we're working together. Like when we're in our heads, we lose it all. We lose what it is to really be human. And that's when bad things happen, we freak out because we spend so much time in our head. When we're present more, we can see the expansiveness in every second of life more. Like I went to see my grandmother today. I'm sharing this with you, who's 99. Her memory's not that great, but she's still I can see her. It's not the same conversations we had. She was a very tough woman from Brooklyn way back when. It's not the same kind of quality of dialogue, but she's still there. The essence of her is still there. And so when you're present with your clients, when you're present with your mom or your partner, we see the essence of them more, right? And that's what you and I are doing. And that's what I think comes through in your podcast. And also,
dude, I appreciate it. But like it's so simple, but it's so different. It's so simple, but it's so complex to just sit. And like before this, I told you I was just sitting reading a book by the water, and like there was kids playing, and I was just like sitting there playing with them, started talking to them. It was like I had like a moment by myself. I was like, wow, this is really like what life's about, like enjoying that innate just imagination of the kids and just being like there. Like, cause I was thinking about all this crazy stuff. I was preparing for you. I was doing all this stuff. It's like, man, what is like, why? It could be so simple. And yet we just have to get so foggy with it. Right. It's
right. And if you really see what's around you, I don't care if you're rich or poor, healthy or sick, young or old, and living in a mansion in Beverly Hills, or you're living in a tenement, you still can have a very rich experience by just what you did with hanging out with those kids and just being human and just enjoying every minute. And that's hard because our brain wants to inform us all the time what's going on. It's like our brain's like it's like a helicopter parent that won't shut up. It's constantly informing us, and it's a brilliant machine that is perfectly designed to do what it's supposed to do. We just use the equipment wrong. It's kind of like, it's like DJ equipment and a mic, and you don't turn the levels up. If the levels aren't correct, you can get feedback and you can blow people's eardrums out. So you got to kind of figure out like the proper sound levels. Well, that's the same thing with our own internal noise with our brains. Like, don't take it seriously when your thinking is going sideways, or you're just in a low state of mind, because it doesn't last. But we pay attention to that more than we pay attention to the quiet voice or the present moment. And that is our growing. I think a lot of us, that's our growing edge. And through your story, through your life, you've seen that, and you're now really modulating that noise. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in your next chapter? I can't wait.
Dude, we're trying, man. I think going through this self-development process, you have to balance the self-development with the self-healing. You have to take that time to don't.
What does that look like though? For
me, and listen, I'm very open. You know me. I'm very like, whatever people have to try everything that works for them. Me, I'm very heavy on my mental work because I'm a very go anxious guy. So if I don't take that time in the morning, whether it be a little pranayama breath work, added with some Kriya yoga is a form of meditation. It's the oldest type of meditation is in the Bhagavad Gita that I'm reading now. Dabble in that. If I don't get that time by myself, I'm literally a different person. The only way I could describe it is if you are looking at a football quarterback playing football, and they make an interception, and you say, "Why, dude? I saw this guy wide open in the middle of the field. What the fuck is wrong with Tom Brady? Tom Brady's making $75 million more than you. Tom Brady knows more than we know. But why doesn't he see it? It's because of awareness. So instead of seeing it from the field version, I could see things from 60, 70 miles up. And that's the only way I describe it, of how I'm able to get people. Everybody tells me I'm lucky. Everybody says you just walk into these opportunities. It's not walking into opportunities. It's being present in your opportunities. A, you have to be aware of the opportunity, and B, you have to have the confidence to overtake each opportunity. That's why I do my mind and body work. Now, I want to be at the highest level of everything. So I'm not saying people have to do that. Right. But I need an hour and a half of my mind, and then usually 2-3 hours of my body. And your spirit is kindled into the mind, right? So that goes without saying. But that is what puts me in my optimized state, so I could be aware of every moment, be aware of the present moment, overtake the opportunities when I see them, and then just be. Sometimes you just got to be. That's the hard part for me, is calming down and just taking a Sunday off. Oh my God, you're missing, you're behind, you're this.
Right. What do they call that? It's fear of missing out.
FOMO,
right? Fear of missing out. And also, I think, as Terrence McKenna, I'm kind of steal from his nature loves courage, right? If you take that chance, and on the other side of fear, it really is just a feather bed. I mean, it's really that we put so much stock in what's going on between our ears in terms of the noise that we forget like what's in front of us when we're not in our heads. We forget because the noise is so loud, especially with people that suffer from PTSD, war trauma, and is that kind of noise is so, even though it's still just noise on a different level because you have neurochemicals attached to it and the brain's like a sponge, you wish that folks that are suffering with PTSD and that sort of thing, which is the same thing, it's just the volume's much louder, would see that more. And it's so hard because the noise is really loud, right? And that's when I tell clients, it's like, it takes time. You got to just, the more you are aware of the noise, the more you take it less personal and take it less seriously, the more that you're able to see it, be aware of it, not do anything about it, the less it's going to be a big deal, like phobia. And I think that's what you see. That's how that plays in concert with.
I'm a huge Terrence McKenna guy, dude, and that's what he says. He says, "Throw yourself into the abyss." And that's what he says. I will I'm not gonna lie.
Dabble.
Tonight, I am throwing myself into a psychedelic abyss a little bit every once in a month.
Are you journeying?
I am journeying, my friend. It's going to be a nice one. Little Terrence McKenna calls it the heroic dose. So it's 5 grams in the pitch blackness, and you just go, man.
I mean, you can find a place in Brooklyn. You can do it anywhere, actually.
Right here, dude.
What? Ladies and gentlemen, he's showing me, so I can't. No. Okay, so
we grow it ourselves. But are
you going to go like take a walk? Are you going to go like to?
I might. Yeah. I got the water by me, and just I like to get the high walking around. So take it in about an hour after it kicks in. When it starts really kicking, I like to go into
and you see it's like a telephoto lens. It's so cool. I mean,
that's where that journey of the podcasting and the comedy came up. Was in my first ever mushroom trip. I never would have ever done it. I was like terrified. I was like, this isn't for me. My cousin is like, stop. You're babbling. He's like, you're a meditator. He's like, you'll be fine. He's like, I've taught you well. My cousin's like this is like the shaman of the group. So he's
a Brooklyn shaman.
He's from Brooklyn, but he lived in Thailand for 22 years. Yeah. He's like so for him to give me the mushrooms, like we grew them ourselves. He's like the Walter White. I'm like Jesse Pinkman. So like, yeah, fuck yeah, science. That's what I'm like. I'm like, yeah, these things work, man. So I'm excited, brother.
It's medicine, and it gets you out of your head. I mean, really, that's the ultimate kind of. I look at it as it's like a software patch. I look at the brain as a computer. When our brain glitches like it always does, we have a lot of thought turbulence. Look, sometimes you need a software update, and sometimes plant medicine is the way to go.
Absolutely, dude.
On that note, I just want to thank you for being here. And we got to do this again, man. It's really special. I love you, man. You're really, I feel like you're I've never met you, but you're my brother. And listen, I apologize for not recording the other one, but I think this one's even super better. Man.
It's double the time with Sammy. What are you, crazy? It's beautiful. It's Friday with Sam. Dude, thank you for everything. Keep doing what you're doing.
And this will be on a couple of ways. Can you tell everybody how they can reach you in terms of if someone is inspired wants to be on your podcast?
If anybody wants, you could email me for personal stuff. Anything you guys need. I do not consider myself a coach. I leave that up to Sam, but more than happy to chat to you. Just hang.
I'm just a shepherd.
Exactly. Causing the Effect podcast at gmail.com. Type in Causing the Effect podcast. You will find me somewhere. If you need anything, guys.
Scotty's everywhere.
Always here to help you.
He's also at the Comedy Cellar. No.
Yes, that is the biggest place. Not yet.
Not yet?
Fingers crossed.
Maybe I'm just like intuiting the future.
Projecting. That's what I'm saying. This is what I need.
No.
Let's go Comedy Cellar.
We got to do this again soon.
Never want to come on mine, man. You are.
This is my favorite being on this.
We did it again, bro.
Yeah.
This is fun. This is good.
Well, enjoy. Be safe. Speak to you soon, brother.
Thank you, brother.